Hi, I'm Amy. Today we are looking at a piano riff from the song Right Here Waiting. Let me play it for you and then we'll talk a little bit. Beautiful. And it's one that we recognize. You know, it's a song that I said, oh yeah, Right Here Waiting. Yeah, we all know it. And so this piano part is well written, kind of easy to play. I don't find it awkward or problematic at all. And so I'm going to walk through it with you, and I hope that it's easy for you to pick up as well. The left-hand chords are kind of broken chords in a predictable, basic way. So I'm going to go through all of that step by step, but I do think that you'll find success with this one. Let's start with the right hand. This is the melody that you're going to recognize. And like I said, it's a lot of stepwise motion. So let's start talking about that. And there are a few things that might be new to you. One is the word syncopation. I'll explain that. The other is the word motive. And I'll kind of tell you how that applies to what we're doing. So first, we're just placing our hand on a C pentascale. Go ahead and check that with me. It's all white keys. 5 fingers, 5 notes, and notice that I'm an octave higher than middle C. I'm not in the middle here, but I'm 1 octave higher. So we're going to be starting the first full phrase up here on the piano. You know, just a note about that, when we're not centered in the middle, can you make sure that you're not twisting or leaning or doing anything that would cause problems? We still keep our posture centered, and then we sort of just reach. You know, the arm can adjust the angles as we need higher or lower notes. We've got that placed, and we're going to start talking about that word motive first of all. Music almost always is built with small units of repeated things, repeated material, and that's what a motive is. It's a small building block that helps to make the piece what it is. So you might have a motive that's a melodic motive. That would be an arrangement of notes that might be steps or skips or something else that's used throughout the piece. You might have a rhythmic motive, which is actually what we're talking about today, which is a unit of rhythm that fits in the meter that we're going to use that's kind of characteristic of the song. So in this case, let's remember rhythmic motive, and let's see how that fits and how it makes the song what it is. The rhythmic motive is this: 1, 2, 3, 4. So it has that kind of pickup note feel, and it has the syncopation, which I know I said I would explain as we get into the end of that unit. So here it is again, motive. Try playing that. It starts with G, and then just stepping down. 2 Gs and steps down. I mentioned the word syncopation. You might already know this, but if not, that's okay. Syncopation is when music puts a strong feeling on a weak beat, sort of an accent that's an offbeat feel. Traditionally, we might have a strong downbeat and a strong, midpoint of the measure on the beats. So when we do something opposite that, that's where syncopation comes in. And perfect example here, what would Mozart do? He might go like this and go to that next strong beat. So in this case, listen to how it's different. We are kind of suspending the beat or displacing it in a way. So you're going to see a lot of that happening. As we continue through, I'll give you a couple ways to practice that. For right now, let's add some more of the notes. We're starting with that first little building block. And then we're going to use the same rhythm for the next part. D, D, E, F, E. Do you hear how it sits in the measure the same way? What I mean by that is it falls right on the same beats. We're beginning that motive on the and of 2, so we have 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and hold. Do you know about those ties? Do you see the curved line? When I just said hold, I'm hanging on to that note from the end of that motive into the next measure. We'll practice that more in a minute. So, beginning again, we are set with our C pentascale. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Now watch out, because in measure 3, we actually do start that C, C. That's right on beat 2. We'll talk about counting. For now, let's just kind of place it all out. We have measure 3, C, C, hold, D, E. Those notes are happening on the ands, on the offbeats. What's the word? Syncopation. So we're sort of feeling a strong sound on a weak part of the beat. That's okay. It sounds, I mean, that's how the song goes, right? Measure 3 is 1, C, C, and. Into measure 4. Did you notice we kept that offbeat thing going? We had E and then D on the end of 1, C, stepping down the scale. There's one crossover that happens in measure 4. Can we check that out? We had placed thumb on C. We were still there. When we get to measure 4 and we need to continue stepping down the scale, we're going to cross 3 over the thumb. You might want to just practice that. Can you make sure that you're not using flat fingers? Can you make sure that you're not twisting with your entire arm or elbow? That thumb can stand tall and the rest of your hand just easily moves over it. Check that out. Make sure it's not going to be a stumbling point for you. Let's take those first 4 measures and see if we can get into some more of that rhythmic idea that we talked about. Here we go. 1 and 2 and. 1 and 2 and. 1 and 2 and. Hold and hold. Crossover. It's helpful that you know the song, right? You can kind of already hear how it's supposed to go. But if we're looking at this from a theory standpoint or a learning, how the music is built, let's go back and talk about counting just for a minute so that you can fully understand what you're doing to make it sound like it sounds. Do you know how to subdivide? Okay, that's what I want to use here. That means that instead of just counting 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm actually putting all the ands in between. That's how I want to count this. 1 and 2 and 3 and. You probably already were thinking that a little bit. That will help me to place the eighth notes exactly where they need to be within those beats. Let's move through a little more of this right hand so that you can start to see the rest of it. You've got it. Basically, we're repeating some of what we already did. In measure 5, I'm moving my right hand, I'm placing my C scale, but now I'm at middle C. So this is the second phrase or the second half of this excerpt. So it starts exactly the same way. Measure 5 is 1 and 2 and 3. Here's the tie, 1 and 2. 1. Stepping up and 2 and 3. So it's slightly different at the end, but again, like I said earlier, stepwise within the same hand position, I think you'll be okay. Can we start at measure 5 one more time? Place your hand, C pentascale in the middle. And if you'd like to practice it with the repeated notes, go for it. Or holding the ties. Either way, you're going to count, right? So 1 and 2 and. 2. 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 3. Crossover. Okay, there's one more little crossover, but you'll find it. It's just stepwise, white keys, okay? So we're gonna play through both phrases with the right hand, start getting that in your ear, in your fingers, and then we just have a little ending part that I'm gonna teach you next time. Let's save that till later and just work on this melody.